Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I'm happy to welcome you to this insightful discussion about exploring the power of parking BI, data, and analytics. My name is Cassandra, and I'm the marketing specialist here at ParkLink, and I am happy to be here today with you as your moderator. Joining me today is Cynthia Bruce, Senior Proposal Writer here at ParkLink, as well as guest speaker Maria Palante, EVP of Client Operations at Bond Brand Loyalty. Bond Brand Loyalty is a customer experience and loyalty management business that works with some of the world's most influential brands. There are a few things I would like to mention before we do get started. We will be accepting questions in the chat that we will be addressing during our Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So be sure to enter your question as well as who you are addressing it to in the chat. On the agenda for today, we will be starting off with an overview on the challenges and solutions, as well as impactful strategies behind BI. Then we will discuss the parking prerequisites you will need for successful parking BI, as well as the parking KPIs you should be tracking. Then we will give you a glimpse of the big picture and talk all things occupancy data, dynamic pricing, and artificial intelligence. We will then share how you can build the right loyalty program for your business and the questions you should be asking to get started. And then, like I said, we'll finish with a live Q&A at the end of the webinar. And if you enjoyed the webinar, we encourage you to leave us a Google star rating by scanning this QR code for your chance to win our prize draw. The winner will be announced on Precise ParkLink LinkedIn page within the coming days, so stay tuned. I will pass it on to Maria to take it from here.
Thanks so much, Cassandra. Really appreciate being part of the conversation. So before I dive into the power of BI, I thought I'd give you a little bit more context around Bond. So if we go to the next slide, we are headquartered in Toronto. We are management owned, and we have over 800 people that work across 6 offices in North America. We design, build, and operate loyalty, customer, employee, and channel programs. And when we're focused on developing recommendations, it really is the foundation of it is really in data and the insights that we draw from it. So want to share the next slide, which gives you a little bit of the sectors we work across, and the value of data and how we use it is important regardless of the sector or the brand that we work with. And we work with clients in automotive, financial services, retail, and many others. And some of the programs you might know us for are Scene+. That is the loyalty program for Cineplex and Scotia, as well as CIBC Rewards. But we do a lot of work with great brands around the world. So happy to share a little bit more of some of that. So when we get into data, many questions come up about, is my data accurate? Do I have the right data to take action? How do I bring it to life? And if we go to the next slide, it really is about starting small and growing from there, taking the right steps, like starting from identifying what are your goals and objectives, identifying the KPIs that you need to then measure and optimize against. So it's one of the topics I'm most passionate about because I get excited about being able to monitor and then be able to take action and see how I can make improvements that will continue to drive activity for our clients. If we go to the next slide, one of the things that's very important to us is data and analytics enabling really meaningful engagement. And we think of it from 3 perspectives. One being, how do we securely ingest data and bring it together to create these rich customer profiles? The second is decisioning. How are we going to now use that information to make decisions about what are the right offers, what are the right rewards, the experiences, the content that we should be delivering to those customers? And then the third being around delivery. How am I now using those decisions and delivering that information? Is it through an app notification? Is it an email? Is it going to be through frontline associates dealing with customers, using that information to now deliver and execute? And of course, all of this information needs to then find its way to reporting. So we'll go to the next slide. And now understanding how the tactics, the actions that I've taken are performing is really important. So when we have KPIs, when we have visualizations tools and a reporting suite, we're now able to see how we're performing against the actions we've taken. And I love visualization tools and business intelligence or BI tools because they help us understand really quickly in real time or near real time how I'm performing. What is the work that me and my team are doing progressing us in the right direction? And if not, how do I now take action to close those gaps? So we'll go to the next slide. And if I take a step back, I like to lay out a framework for how we define a measurement plan with a client. And it really starts off with an overarching understanding of what the strategy and business objectives are. What am I trying to achieve as a business? Then I go into, okay, taking it a step further, what are the objectives and outcomes I'm looking for? And then translating that to defining my key performance indicators and the additional metrics that I'm going to want to monitor, whether it's in a visualization tool or other ways. And you see a call out around 5 to 7 KPIs because we really believe that it's important to be really crystal clear on what are the 5, 6, or 7 things that I need to know on an ongoing basis. There are going to be secondary metrics that are going to be important, but those 5 to 7 things are going to tell you I'm tracking in the right direction. Because if you're trying to track too many things, it becomes difficult. But those 5 to 7 things become the thing that trigger you to say, oh, if something is not working in one or I'm not seeing the progress, then I can look to other things to drill in. But at an executive level, you should be able to look at those things and know if you're on track. Once you've defined what it is you want to measure and what you want to track, it's making sure that this is where you have to think about, do I have the data required in order to report the way I want to at the frequency that I want to? Do I have all the right data sources pulling that information together? And are all the stakeholders that are involved or that need to also are interested in understanding how something is performing, do they have the necessary access to that information? Do they have the right privileges? What else? How else do you want them to be contributing? And do you have their buy-in as well? And that is what ends up feeding that measurement plan overall. So from a data perspective, what we'd say here is data-driven decision-making is essential for any business, regardless of sector. Any client that I work with, doesn't matter, it's always important. So, and business intelligence really helps us understand who our customers are, what drives them. It helps us monitor performance overall, and it also helps us have control of the results and be able to take action when we need to. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cynthia.
Thanks, Maria. I have to say, after hearing you talk about that, I'm really looking forward to hearing you speak about loyalty programs a little bit later. You've really helped us set the stage for data analytics and BI and how can be leveraged to make meaningful and impactful decisions that are going to help us shape strategies and define forward movement. So my job for now is to talk about what it all means for the world of parking. Well, we're seeing now more than ever before that organizations in the parking and mobility industry are wanting to harness the intelligence that can come from gathering data. They too, they want to gain new and deeper insights into their customers, and they want to better understand their businesses and all of the nuances there. Parking in and of itself is an area that is pretty data rich already. Now with today's tech, parking operators and business owners are really bringing in smarter technology that's going to support their ever-evolving parking operations. And with that comes a deeper and broader data set that does become available to them. So for the first step, we're going to talk a little bit about the prerequisites for getting started. And there's a lot to take in here. So with time, we're coming to realize that data and analytics are quickly becoming the backbone of any successful parking operation. Our clients are realizing that adding intelligent technologies like parking access controls, revenue control systems, LPR or license plate recognition systems, and parking guidance are providing them with the tools that they need to make better decisions. So there's a few ways that parking operators and managers can start collecting some of this data. They can invest in smart connected hardware solutions. They can set up points where customers can be identified. They can integrate smart software solutions to assist in the compilation and analysis of any of that collected data. And then, of course, there's always the data that can be mined from the current parking systems that are in place today. So the next step really is about identifying your KPIs and figuring out what's important to you in your operation. And it's a really important step because it's really easy, like Maria talked about earlier, to get carried away with a crazy amount of information that becomes available when you get your hands on all of that data. And that first instinct is, I want all of it, give it to me. But what happens is that there's just so much data, you can't actually do anything meaningful with it. You can't sort it out, you can't absorb it. And you end up with some data sets and some analytic pieces that you never even look at. Your systems are still collecting and turning through the raw data, you're using up IT resources, and no one's actually making any decisions with them. So it's better to have a narrow list of defined KPIs that are meaningful to your operation and your business, and look at those data points regularly and get that deep knowledge of your parking operation. So once you've identified your KPIs, and they're going to be unique to you. So maybe it's about occupancy based on hour, on dates on a certain day, or maybe you want to learn about the behaviors of your recurring parkers. Maybe you want to look at something like the payment types that your parkers are using, what kind of cars they're driving. And once you have that, those data sets can be limitless almost, and they're going to help you define the technology that you're going to want to put in place and you're going to want to enhance on. So once we've done all of that work, now it helps that you understand the KPIs that are generally used in the world of parking, so you can see what's possible and how you can harness your own data sets to further analyze operational areas. As consumer expectations continue to evolve, your operation has to as well. Real-time parking data and analytics are vital in identifying what is working and what might need to be changed, all in a vein of meeting your customers and your parking operations needs. When you gain an in-depth understanding of all of these key areas, you're going to be able to propose and implement changes to improve your parking operation, increase your revenues, and make data-supported projections for future growth. And as you test out new products, new rates, new rules, new structures, new offerings, all within the realm of your parking operation, you're going to have access to some of that before and after data and those metrics, so you can really understand what's working and what's not working, what makes you more money, or maybe what's costing you some money as well, and whether there's any real value in what you're trying to do or not. That may have been based on feedback from your boss or from some parkers instead of from some real data. So the benefits, it doesn't matter who you are or what you are. A proper BI tool that accepts and works with multiple data sets is key to data that is actually usable in a timely manner and that can be presented in a visual format that most people can take in, understand, and confidently make decisions on. If your BI tool can't take in all the data sets from all of your parking tech, you may never be able to make a fully informed decision. So keep that in mind. The value of data and analytics, it's vertical agnostic. It doesn't matter if you're, Toronto Pearson Airport, or if you're a teeny tiny small local one like in Sioux Lookout. Doesn't matter if you're a commercial airport, a mixed-use property, a stadium with, sports game attendees, or a hotel with guests who are validating, or even a municipality that's using parking equipment to do a residential beach access program. The data sets acquired from that technology, and it doesn't matter again if it's hardware or software, if it's physical or virtual, the value carries over time and again, and it allows you to make decisions from a position of strength of information. The days of setting an oversell rate of 9% for permits in the month of April based on historical data, best guesses, and your gut instinct, they can officially go by way of the dinosaur. We don't need them anymore. So now we're going to kind of move on into this next section. It's going to talk about the possibilities and where BI can be implemented with parking strategies and kind of bringing it to a new level. So most of us know that business intelligence tools are evolving at a rapid pace. If you've done any research about them at all, It's crazy. So the tools are connecting data sets, often from multiple subsets, in one location to remove data friction. They're helping organizations visualize their most important metrics to gain greater insights. And we're finding that property managers and owners are prioritizing this data analysis to empower their business users with the insights that they need to improve their parking operations and generate more revenue, and all at the same time eliminate some inefficiencies. So it's important now that you consider kind of right-sizing everything about your parking operation. So the data and the data analysis is going to help you set the stage for some pretty cool advantages. They're going to enable you to do things like track your KPIs so you can right-size your product offering. And they're also going to let you really look at your parking data carefully. So let's talk about occupancy levels. As an example, occupancy levels fluctuate. This is a near definite. Like, you're probably not getting the toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube, near definite. But do you know why? Like, do you really know why? Taking that deep dive into occupancy data and analysis is going to allow you to make period over period comparisons in all of the areas of your operation. And once you pair that with some other metrics from your parking operation, as well as from your neighborhood and your surrounding areas, you're going to start being able to observe some trends and making some occupancy-driven decisions from a position of knowledge and nearer certainty. Maybe you'll find out the second Wednesday of every month you have a spike in occupancy, and that's because there's a coin club that's meeting in the church basement down the street at that time every month. So you might want to create a marketing campaign and have a special rate for these parkers. You want to try to encourage them to stay longer and spend a little bit more when they're parking with you. Some of the other metrics that you might want to look at to drive decisions, they can include revenue, reservations, validations, payment types, occupancy types, customer types, really, anything that you can think of. Another thing to keep in mind is that comparisons in general give you that moment in time view of your operation and how it's doing right now. And it's usually the first time that something has changed. Maybe it's off or maybe it's out of alignment. It's also a good measure to see how changes to your parking program are offering or affecting your standards. Let's say you just introduced a new early bird rate. Your month over month revenue last year to this year is up by 17.2%. It's probably a strong indicator of early success with your new offering. But if that revenue picture kind of dropped off, you'll probably want to influence some of the other factors, like what are the neighboring rates from some of your competitors? What are they offering? Maybe there's new parking availability in the area. And maybe the early bird rate just wasn't successful. Maybe people just weren't interested in it. So the visualization of that data is going to be an early gauge of the level of success of changes, external influences, and kind of the overall health of your parking operation. So now we're going to talk just a little bit about kind of next level here. And this is connecting your online data with your on-site data and establishing correlations between the two. And we're talking about things like understanding how many people referred to your parking site from a Google ad, rather than relying on some of the more common or conventional conversions and potential projections. You can accomplish this connecting of data sets with technology like barcode readers or PIN codes maybe. Think about it. In your ad, you have a special promo with a PIN code. And maybe it's an entry to a draw, or maybe you're discounting your parking. Parker comes to your facility, they enter in the PIN code at a PIN pad or at a tablet, and they enter in their license plate because that's what's required in order to, get what the ad promised. So now what's happening is that you've got that missing link of what happened online and how it ended up in your parking lot. And it's going to give you even more data, and it's going to give you some metrics to work with to develop new programs to attract new parkers, or maybe a different set of parkers to your facility once you learn how the two are connecting together and where it works and where it doesn't work. The applications here are numerous. They're well beyond the scope of our chat today. So for now, we're just going to kind of leave it with you to think about. So another key element to parking operations and data-driven parking operations really is dynamic pricing. It always gets a lot of attention. It's always the belle of the ball when we get into really serious discussions about parking. So we wanted to make sure we touch on it. But, you know, like linking that online with the on-site parking data and strategies, dynamic pricing is one of those subjects that requires way more time than we have here today in order to do it any kind of justice. So we're going to do kind of like an abbreviated Coles note kind of version here over the next couple of slides. So at its core, tracking KPIs is going to let you introduce dynamic pricing structures, which is typically the #1 proposition for all businesses. Around the world, parking operations have been leveraging dynamic pricing strategies for years already. Like, the concept itself isn't new. The hospitality industry and organizations like Uber are great examples of how businesses have benefited from using dynamic pricing algorithms that automatically adjust rates based on variables such as time of day, supply and demand, maybe things like weather. You know, we've all seen kind of surge pricing with Uber. So, you know, that's that algorithm, and that's the technology that's driving these things. So in parking, the technology like camera-based guidance systems are really letting owners and operators take dynamic pricing to a new level, and I mean that actually quite literally. So the technology gets paired to that camera-based parking guidance technology, gets paired with smart parking system, and actually lets you start charging premium based on stall location. Or so it could be a stall or it could be a level. So, you know, let's think here. Closer to the elevator bank at a major parking lot, oh, you get to pay an extra $5. But you're gonna, you know, a multi-level parkade, you're gonna park up on the top floor where your car is gonna bake in the middle of July. We're only gonna charge you $2 less an hour. You know, with these parking guidance systems, they have colored lights on them. So you can light them up pink, and you can let everybody know that if you park in one of these pink stalls, we're gonna add $10 to your parking total, and we're gonna donate that to charity for you. So dynamic pricing, as you can see, and these are just small examples of some location-based, and it can be location-based, occupancy-based, time-based. It can be a combination of the three. The possibilities and the permutations of what you can do here are pretty close to being endless. The goal is the same though, right? You want to maximize your occupancy, you want to maximize stay, maximize revenue, and you want to maximize the amount of people who are returning. So if it's a strategy that really interests you, this whole dynamic pricing, the first step you're going to have to do is you're going to have to be able to have the technology in place to start collecting the right kind of data. And you can do that with smart sensor technologies like the one that's pictured here from Park Assist. And they're going to allow you to track and monitor real-time parking occupancy, set rates dependent on occupancy targets that are allocated to any specific period. These sensor technologies, you know, they're also going to help you reduce traffic caused by drivers kind of driving in your parking lot looking for an available parking stall. So there's that side benefit that's outside of the data-driven and the dynamic pricing. So we're talking about reducing emissions and idle times while people are looking for a parking stall. We're also going to be reducing the amount of incidents where cars, you know, collide with humans walking through parking garages. And like we're diminishing that searching for a parking stall time by about 30%, 40% with these parking systems. So they're pretty cool. And the technology, I'm going to geek out here a little bit, so, you know, bear with me. You can integrate this with Find My Car kind of technology. So you can have a kiosk or a pay station or on your app or on a website where people can plug in their license plate and say, I don't remember where I parked. And it's going to give them the map and say, you're here and you're parked over there. So, you know, go that way. So, and it's going to help you with all kinds of things like wayfinding and signage. So it's really an all-encompassing kind of addition to your parking operation. So we'll get kind of back on track here with data and analytics. And so now rates. So rates is always, you know, that end game when it comes to a parking operation. How do you know when to adjust it? Where do you do it? When do you do it? What do you do it to? So when on a traditional site without a whole bunch of really fancy parking tech, you know, humans are making these decisions. But when you start getting this technology in place, you're going to have the data there that's going to drive those decisions as to when to raise the rates. Really identify when your peak times are, when your downtimes are, when you're congested and when you're not congested. And so the next step to that, though, is how are these rates being adjusted? Is someone going in manually and plugging them into your central management system, or is an algorithm doing this automatically? So the technology here is really evolving quickly, and we're seeing that automated algorithms that are going to trigger automated changes within the systems are actual roadmap items now. They're not just kind of pie in the sky or, well, we're almost there. This is almost as good. Having everything being automated is almost always better than having a human going in and making those decisions and having to make the changes. It gives us a flexibility for more changes, faster, more accurately, and that represent what's actually happening in real or near real time. So when you're looking at parking technology upgrades or enhancements, it's important to kind of consider if that is going to be an important part of your future strategy. So the future of business intelligence and parking. So parking management has changed because technology has changed. That was unavoidable. And as the technology is able to take on more and more of those functions that have traditionally been handled by our personnel that have been on site, it allows us to take those personnel resources, reallocate them into places that actually make more of a meaningful impact to the people who are using the facility. So we definitely have seen that shift now. COVID really forced all kinds of change on us from a technology perspective and from how people are choosing to interact with technology and other people. And it's change, it's been enhancements, it's been innovations, and we've seen a lot happen in 24 months. Parking has been right in the thick of it, right? People need to go places and they need to park, but they don't want to be doing all of the things that they had to do before to park. They don't want to push buttons to issue tickets. They don't want to pay at a pay station where they got to touch buttons, right? So it was really about, in the parking world, developing those technologies to make parking tickets just kind of spit out of the machine on their own, giving people the tools that they can use their smartphone as their own personal pay station instead. So parking operators and owners have had to shift with that. And when they have those managed parking sites, they've had to make those shifts as well. Make sure those technologies are in place to provide parkers with more self-serve options, more choice, and more security. So what does that really mean for parking management? It just means that, we need to change more, right? More change is required. And the tools that are needed to effectively manage the change and the changes in parking, obviously they have to change as well. And the biggest trend, they want one platform for everything parking. They want to go to one place to look at the entire operation at any time. They want it live, they want it real time or near real time, and they don't want to have to look anywhere past that for kind of most of their day-to-day looks and updates and, to see what little tweaks need to be made. They need the technology that they are investing in to be powered not only by artificial intelligence now, but they now need these systems to be powered with machine learning as well. So it's really about taking it to the next level. The systems need to get smarter to deal with these growing data sets. And there's just more and more of them. Like, big data is such a real thing. It's crazy. It's almost out of control. So the systems need to be in place that can handle that. And that data needs to be made available to those managing the parking operations so they can make those meaningful decisions and to build strategies that are going to hold out and prove themselves over time. So we're going to shift gears here a little bit, and we're going to talk about what would happen if we could connect our parking technology to a building experience. So I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture here. So Maria, my co-presenter, is driving to work. She gets to the entry terminal of the parkade of the parking garage. And when she gets there, the LPR system reads her license plate, and big digital sign on the island says, "Welcome, Maria, have a great day," and opens the gate. Maria goes into her parking spot. There's another digital sign there that says, "Hi, Maria, you have a meeting in an hour at the university. So if you're walking, we're going to suggest you take an umbrella today." And then Maria, she's going to go to the elevator to go up to her office, and she's a VIP at work. So the elevator is already down there waiting for her. And while all of this is happening in her office, the lights have turned on, the coffee maker has started percolating, the thermostat was turned up to 24 degrees, and her computer and her printer have all been powered up. So when she walks into her office, she sits down and she is ready to go. All Maria did was drive into a parkade, like millions of people do every single day. So what actually happened? All it was is that smart parking tech was using data to talk to smart building tech. That's it. And it's not some futuristic plan. The data and the tech all exist today, and it's being implemented. So keep an eye out for that. Loyalty programs. So I'm just about done here. I am not even going to hazard to speak on this because we actually have an expert at the table here. As Maria is going to say, and she's going to speak to in her next section here, all of this data and technology, it enables so many really cool and wonderful things. Some of it more practical than others, for sure. But the value in a loyalty program is pretty much second to none. So on the parking side, the tech that we use today creates data points that allows us to track the parkers and their behaviors, and we can apply this information in making good decisions for our parking operations. But loyalty programs really take that data to the next level, and your parking tech should be able to offer a loyalty program for you to offer to your partners. So with that, please, Maria, take over and end this for me.
Thanks so much. I love, that was such great content. And I already had some thoughts around the loyalty program and the benefits based on what you shared. So in terms of loyalty programs, we'll go to the next slide and I'll just talk a bit about how we stay in touch in loyalty. And so from a loyalty program perspective, we will talk about programs. But I will say when we talk programs, we think of them both in a formal and an informal way. So it doesn't necessarily, a loyalty program doesn't necessarily need to be points. It really is about how you engage your customers and how do you bring everything together to create loyalty between that customer and your brand. And it is around working across the customer journey. And so I'll jump into a little bit more on the next slide. So over the last 10 years, almost 12 years now, we've been doing a comprehensive study in looking at loyalty, engagement, and known customer experiences. And we reach out to consumers in a lot of different markets with a lot of focus in the North American market here with reaching 25,000 consumers on an annual basis. And we ask them about their perspectives on different programs and industry sectors and what drives satisfaction to the programs they participate in. And when I say program, I do mean broad. So Amazon Prime, Netflix, all of that is part of what we actually look into because those are brands engaging with customers and they are known customers. So wherever we have data around a customer, we can look at the loyalty between those things or a customer's loyalty. And it gives us a lot of signals in terms of the loyalty mechanics we can continue to leverage to help our clients over time. On the next slide, one of the things that you'll see here is a trend around membership enrollment over time. And you'll see that over the pandemic, we actually saw a lift up in the number of programs that customers are signed up for. And even the active rate has started to climb a little bit, but you can see there is a disparity between the programs that I sign up for and the activity, what I'm really active in on a regular basis. And what we always talk to our clients about is how to make sure that you're one of those 7 that someone is going to stay engaged with. So leveraging data to help inform the tactics you put in place is really important to making sure that you are one of those 7 that are top of mind for a customer. If we go to the next slide, this gives you a view to the drivers of customer loyalty. And what's interesting about this, and I'll just orient you to these drivers of program loyalty, starting from the outside, we ask over 50 questions of customers related to the different programs that they participate in. And we ask questions that roll up into things related to communications, safety, a perspective on financial, knowing me, learning, time, and access. And on the next slide, I'll get into more detail around that. But what's go back, back one. Sorry. What I would say here, and why you see two things on the outside, safety and communication. Those two are the foundational drivers for a customer, and everything else falls out of that. And what's interesting is you see safety surfacing, and in the last few years with COVID, that has become top of mind. It's not only about how are you keeping my data safe, it's also about how you're helping me stay safe in a physical environments. On communications, it's really about relevant communications. Are you communicating with me in the right ways? The things inside then kind of fall out from that. And yes, knowing me is important. This is where data becomes important. If you know me and you're treating me in the right ways, am I a regular customer? Am I frequenting your parking location on a regular basis? Are you recognizing me in a different way than someone else? Learning, are you helping me learn along time? It's all about efficiency. How do we make things really easy for people? Access, am I given different privileges as a result of being a better customer? That's important. And then financial, what's interesting here, only 14% of what drives my loyalty to a program is actually tied to financial benefits. It's all of these other things that play a role. And so while financial benefits might draw someone into a program, I'm going to get a reward, I'm going to be able to get discounts, I'm going to get those things, it's all of these other things that become really important for long-term engagement. So if we go to here you'll see, and I'm sure we can share this with you, but it just shows you some of the questions that roll up into those categories that we delve into. So I'm not going to spend more time on that, but just to say that there is a lot behind what gets rolled up into those drivers of program satisfaction. If we go to the next piece, one of the questions that's often asked is, what data should I be collecting? What's important? And on the right, you'll see this idea of a value exchange. Customers are willing to surface up more data, and you collect more data for the benefits. There has to be a value exchange. But there are some rules of thumb. One, starting with ask for only the data that you expect to use. There is no reason to, I'll say for some programs, if I'm asking for your birth date, but I'm not going to give you a birthday benefit, there's no reason for me to ask for that information. And you would also have some customers being puzzled about why you're asking for that. Explain why you're asking for the data and how it will benefit the customer. So on the flip side of that, if you're going to have a birthday benefit and you ask for a birthday, it becomes clear, oh, I'm going to get a birthday benefit. That's why you want that information. And I'm going to get 10% off during that period of time, as an example. Another instance is we're going through electrification and we work with fuel companies, an example, knowing what kind of car someone drives, electric or gas-based, is important. So we might ask information about that as part of the data we're collecting about a customer to make sure that we're surfacing up rewards and offers that make sense for them. And to the point around safety, making sure that you're communicating how you're keeping that data safe. You might have privacy policies, any of that, that's important. And then always ensuring that you have consent to use the data that you're collecting. That's an important element. You don't want people to be surprised when you reach out to them and communicate to them. That can result in a negative reaction that you don't want to have. So those are some of the rules of thumb around data collection. And then when you're thinking about designing a loyalty program, there are really 4 pillars that we keep in mind, and it is around striking the right balance between them. One, you want to make sure that any program or any benefits that you're designing for are brand aligned. Do they make sense for your brand? And then second, are they customer relevant? It's one thing that you might come up with a benefit, but if it's not appealing to a customer, then there's no reason to offer that up. And you can do that through research or other means of validating what is relevant, what rises to the top for customers. One of the things Cynthia referenced that went straight to my mind, if I knew that I could have a stall closer to the elevator or closer to access to the doors for me, that's a benefit that would be super relevant. And you know what? That might be something that I want to incorporate. Doesn't cost me any more money, but it's relevant from a customer perspective. Operationally effective, obviously, anything that you want to put in market needs to be operationally effective. It also needs to be financially incremental. And so it's striking the right balance. It's also understanding that you want anything you're going to implement needs to be, you need to see return on that investment. So there might be things that customers really want, like they want more free stuff, sure. But that's not going to make sense for your business. So it's fine striking that right balance and having all of these things in harmony so you can optimize for the program that you implement. And any program that you implement, you will be having to optimize over time. Now, this is a bit of an eye chart here, but I would say once you've designed a program, there are a lot of things that you need to consider from an implementation perspective. Everything from planning, technology, the data integrations that you'll need to leverage, through to the experience that you want to deliver. How are you going to be communicating? Is there a brand associated with that program? Are you just bringing more benefits to life? And then how do you make sure that the measurement plan is in place, as well as all the frontline training that needs to be done to ensure that you have the necessary support is put in place once you've done that. But this is, there's more there, and we spend lots of time talking about it, but lots of opportunity. And this is just an example of some of the work that happens as you think about your loyalty strategy or some of the mechanics you want to put in place. It really does start with the customer journey and understanding that. And so this is just some work that we've done with CIBC and looking at using data to really depict that process that a customer goes through, from awareness through to onboarding, engagement, and then how you keep them retained and win them back when you see them lapsing. So this just gives you a little bit of color associated with that. Okay, I'm handing it back to Cassandra.
Thank you for that, Cynthia and Maria. That was really a truly insightful discussion. Once again, if you enjoyed today's webinar, we encourage you to leave us a Google star rating by scanning this QR code for your chance to win our prize draw. So we'll leave it here for a few seconds so you all have a chance to do that. And a reminder that we will be announcing the winner on Precise ParkLink's LinkedIn page in the coming days, so stay tuned. Okay, there are many questions that can come to mind when it comes to parking BI, data, and analytics. With that being said, we will now be addressing all of your questions in the chat, starting with a question for Maria. So the question asks, I don't have access to an automated reporting dashboard, but I do have access to financial reports. What KPIs should I be focusing on?
I will probably, if it's related to parking, I might have Cynthia chime in because she'll be able to speak to the parking metrics that are most important. So I'm going to pass off to Cynthia on this one.
Fair enough. So, you know, if you're basing it on financial reports, the KPIs that you can look at are going to be limited. So really, you're going to be focusing on things like what are your peak revenue times? What are the methods of payments that are most used within your parking facility? And, you know, you're going to be a little bit more limited. You're going to just be able to see how many parking transactions you have, and you might be able to tell when they're occurring based on what financial payments are made. So if it's a cash payment, you'll know exactly when it's made. If it's a credit card payment, you know, you might have some posting delays and things that you would have to consider. So you really need to kind of figure out what's important for you to figure out, and then go to your data to be able to extract that, to identify those details. I would suggest that whoever your parking either manager is, if it's a managed site, the parking manager should be helping you with that. If you're self-managing, whoever's provided your parking technology should have a program in place where they have an operations manager that can meet with you every once in a while, at least once a year, and kind of go over some of those things that are specific to your parking program and how you can enhance it based on the data and the metrics that you do have available.
Awesome. Thank you, Cynthia. We have another question for you. Is all sensor technology from above, or can there be in-ground sensor technology for on-street parking?
So there's all kinds. So there is from above, there is in ground, there is above ground. You can have stuff mounted to a light post. You can have cameras from above that survey an entire area and count how many empty stalls there are. So there is a solution that is available for whatever your needs are.
Great. Another question for Cynthia. What do I need hardware-wise to integrate my loyalty program with my parking?
So it's a two-part question here. I see the second part of that question was, if I don't have a loyalty program, what should I do to get started? So I'm actually going to flip this to Maria first, so she can answer that second part, and then I can add on to the first part.
Yeah, the first step related to a loyalty program is being able to identify your customers. So do you have a means of doing that? So that would be step one. From a design perspective, we touched on designing the mechanics associated with a program, but understanding, are there going to be ways that you can identify your customers? So do they need to enroll or or do you have a way to identify them and identify them on an ongoing basis? That will be critical to any initiatives that you put in place. And then what are the right benefits? And you don't need to have, like, as I said, you don't need to go into a full-blown loyalty program to start testing out some benefits. So there's smaller ways you can take some steps in creating a dialogue with customers. And so those would be the first two things that I would do on your way to maybe something more robust.
Now, further to that, so once you've identified how you're going to identify your customers who are participating in your loyalty program, that's really going to drive the technology that you have to have in place. So if you just want to do it based on license plates, then you need to have the technology that's going to be able to capture those license plates. If you're going to do an app that's tied to the parking technology provider, then they're going to have to register through that app, and then the parking technology needs to be able to support that. So I think in most cases you'll find within the world of parking, a loyalty program will be a software component that is built to tie in to the parking technology, whether it's gated or ungated.
Now, just one other piece there. And if you're looking at, like, maybe there's a broader program that you have, and parking is just one element of you want to be able to recognize those customers, then most loyalty technology, like if it is independent, can accept data from other sources. So it's just a matter of how do you get that data fed into that broader technology, if that's the case.
Yeah, and that's where your parking technology provider should have, the engineers in place to offer up those APIs that can talk with the loyalty program, and they can figure all of that out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. If there aren't any more questions, I would like to say thank you again to both the speakers and attendees. Oh, one more question came in, never mind. So how would you frame a communication for a parking increase for a hospital, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic? So I will pass that on to Cynthia.
So that is actually a really tricky communication. So the first thing I would counsel is definitely engage your marketing team or your communications team on that. But you have to consider, if you're in Ontario, you have to consider Ministry of Health, any rules, regulations they have around that, especially around that parking directive from 2016. The communications there, I'm not the person to answer that question. I would advise you to reach out to your parking manager, your operations manager. They'll have something, or they'll have access to a marketing team that can help you around that. So if it's a little increase, the messaging is going to be very different than if it's a significant increase. And again, in Ontario, if that increase is going to take you over the cap limit for Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care Directive, then that's going to have to factor into your messaging as well. So I know it's not much of an answer, and I will apologize for that, but that's something that needs way more conversation, way more investigation before anybody can give you a good answer there.
Thank you, Cynthia. So thank you again to both the speakers and the attendees for an insightful discussion on the power of Parking BI, data, and analytics. We will be following up with an email that you can respond to if any other questions do arise. And on that note, please save the date for our upcoming webinar, A Paradigm Shift in Parking Management, on Wednesday, April 27th at 12 p.m. Thank you again, everyone. That's a wrap for today.